Here we go. We're now talking about the jobs and roles that exist in construction. This lecture is really specifically going to be looking at career opportunities that exist for you, the services and the services that we provide in the construction industry, the personal attributes of an individual working in the industry, the importance of relationships, the qualifications that are needed or required, and potentially as well the pay scales that exist. Now, by the end of this lesson, you're going to know a few things. You're going to know the specializations that are available for work in the construction industry. You're going to know the career pathway to become a carpenter and joiner. I'm going to run you through that career pathway. And you're going to know the desired personal attributes of someone working in the construction industry. You're going to understand then what it means to be a tradie and the training that's required to be a tradie or a tradesperson. And you're going to understand the training requirements to then run your own construction company. They are two separate things, and you will understand that by the end of this lesson. What you're going to do is you're going to create a Google slide presentation at the end where you're going to select one of the career pathways or the specializations in the construction industry. You are not going to choose carpenter and joiner. You're going to select from the others. And your Google slide presentation is going to include an overview of the role, the qualification that's needed to get there, the average salary, what type of company might employ you, and what other roles, what other specializations do you rely on to do your work. So let's get started. These are the specializations. You can read through these yourself: bricklaying, carpentry, wall and floor tiling, plastering, rigging, dogging, formwork. There's a whole heap there. When you think of your current qualification though, we look at where we are at the moment. Now, where we are at the moment is right here. We're in Year 12. We're studying a certificate certificate 2 in construction pathways. That's our current qualification. It's a general introduction to the construction industry, and we should have that finished by the end of this year. Now, our goal is for all our students to get to that point. But obviously, for you to get to this point relies on you completing all of your competencies so far that have been set out and making sure that you have been marked as competent for those competencies. If you don't achieve all of the competencies, then you will get a statement of attainment towards certificate 2. So your qualifications that you've got are still valid. It just means you haven't got the full certificate 2 yet. So that's what we're aiming for by the end of this year, and it's a general introduction to construction. Now, if you wanted to go and work in the workforce from next year and not do any more study, you absolutely could. And you could go out there and do laboring, and you'd be very helpful to a builder because you have a real general introduction to construction. What you can't do though is you can't go and run your own company. And what you're not going to be is paid as a builder because you're not yet a qualified tradesperson. So you can be paid as a laborer because you don't yet have that full qualification. So the next level qualification then is a certificate 3. Now there is a certificate 3 for each of the individual specializations that we spoke about on the previous slide. I'm specifically here looking at carpentry and joinery. This qualification focuses on your apprenticeship, which gets you towards becoming your own builder. Okay, you still can't run your own company, but you are a fully qualified builder by the end of it. It focuses on timber construction. It looks even more in depth at frames, trusses and roofs, manufacturing components off-site for installing, and installing and replacing windows and doors. It does a whole heap of stuff, but that's a bit of a summary for you. Now, by the end of your 3 years in that course, you will be a fully qualified builder, and you'll be able to get paid as a full builder doing building work. You could go around and do little odd jobs for people as long as it's under the value of $5,000 and you have all your appropriate insurance and you've set your business up and you've done all those legal sides of things. You can actually go out and run a very small building company, but you can't actually run a building company for any projects that are more than $5,000 in value. Okay? So that's a little bit of a sticking point for some people, and some people are like, no, I really want to run my own business and I want to start a construction company, I want to manage that construction company, and I want to build houses and do major projects. Well, if that's what you want to do, there's an additional 2 years of study required where you do a certificate for in building and construction. By the end of this, you are eligible for your builder's license, and that therefore means you can manage your own large business and have projects over the value of $5,000. Okay. Now, if we go back to where we are now, you're being given an introduction to general construction. We're letting you trial out a few different things. So there's some units on concreting that we do. There's some units on wall and floor framing. There's some units on wall and floor tiling. We do a little bit of plastering in there. We do a little bit of carpentry in there. We do a tiny little bit of cabinet making style stuff in there as well in some of our courses. So it's a real introduction to each of the specializations. You then choose what sort of tradesperson you want to be, what sort of specialty you want, and you go back to this slide here, and it gives you all the information about what is required for you to get there. Okay. Now, carpenter and joiner, these people construct, erect, install, renovate, and repair structures and fixtures made of wood, plywood, wallboard, and other materials, and they cut, shape, and fit timber parts to form structures and fittings. That's what they do. On average in Australia right now, a fully qualified carpenter or joiner gets paid $1,358 per week. There is a fairly moderate growth in job prospects. Not many people with this qualification are unemployed. There are around about 133,000 workers currently. It's a medium level of skill, so it's not a particularly difficult job, but that being said, you can't do it without some training, so it is medium level. 87% of people that are working in a carpentry job are full-time, and that's good for your job security, it's good for your annual leave, and it's good for your entitlements. And on average, you should be looking, if this is the career you want to go into, around about 44 hours for a full-time week. Now, where does that sit with other jobs? Well, a carpenter and joiner, Certificate 3 level, slightly below the average income in Australia right now. Okay? But there is still a lot of potential for you to make additional money by running a separate company on the side. So you might be a full-time carpenter and joiner working 5 days a week, and then you might do some odd jobs around the place on weekends, under the value of $5,000, of course, with all your insurance in place, and that's how you can top up your cash. Now, obviously, this is an average, which means some people get paid more, some people get paid slightly less, okay? But this is an average of a carpenter and joiner on a weekly earning. Qualifications, okay? Most people that are working in this job have a Certificate 3 or a Certificate 4, okay? There are some people that are working with lower level qualifications, and these are the people that would be not being paid as a full tradesperson. And then you've got people working slightly above, so they might have further qualifications. Okay? They may have done additional courses afterwards and decided no, they want to go and be carpenter and joiner on a job site. Okay? But the average person working this job has Certificate 3, Certificate 4. It's important to know that a carpenter and joiner is important in the production of houses and construction projects in the country. But they can't actually do their job without working very closely with some of the other specialties. How can you build a brick house without a brick and block layer as a carpenter? You couldn't install the kitchen if the brick and block layer hasn't put their walls up yet. You couldn't put a wall frame up if the concrete slab's not done yet. You couldn't put your bearer and joist floor structures in without the previous house being demolished. Okay? You can see that each of these different roles plays a really big part in the construction industry, and no one is better than the other. They all are part of the puzzle of building and construction projects. Now, what skills are required? Well, the skills that they say are required for someone in a carpenter and joinery position, obviously building and construction. It's your number one skill, your ability to build and construct things. The second skill set there, your mechanical skills, your ability to get things to work and put them together, okay? Your understanding of structures and sort of the engineering concepts behind them in terms of load-bearing walls and how to string up a wall frame square and secure and strong. The third key aspect there of your role are your technical design skills, your ability to create those designs. So I'm talking CAD drawings here, proper CAD drawings to Australian Standard 1100, but also your ability to read and interpret those plans, those Australian Standard drawings. And this is where we've had those units where you've had to create the SketchUp drawings and models for your projects before you make them. That's one aspect of the technical design. The second aspect is the unit that we've just completed on reading and interpreting plans. So there are two aspects to the technical design skills. The fourth most important skill that they are asking for construction workers that are builders and joiners are mathematical skills. There is a large gap in the industry where we have a whole heap of people that have completed their qualification in building and joinery. They're a tradesperson, but then they cannot do some of the what we would call basic math that is job specific. You should be able to do trigonometry on the job site using your phone as a calculator to calculate the hypotenuse of a roof truss. You should be able to use basic area and volume calculations to work out how much concrete you need to order, and therefore you need to understand ratios, how many bags of cement, how many bags of sand, how many bags of aggregate if you're mixing your own concrete. Cutting lengths, measuring lengths, there's a whole heap of mathematics. We've covered that all in our mathematics unit, but we're talking about why is that needed? Why do we even need to do that unit? The maths is so easy. The reason we do that unit is because there is a big gap in the industry of people that can't do that math, or they were able to do it one day in a maths classroom, but then as soon as they go out to the job site, they forget that it's important and they forget how to do it. Mathematics is a key, the fourth most important skill required for a carpenter and joiner. Now, what are the demands of the job? What sorts of things should you expect to be doing? Well, the top 5 are here. You should be expecting to have lots of face-to-face discussions. So if you're not a fan of talking to people, you either need to practice and get a little bit better of it, or reconsider whether this is the career for you, because a lot of what you're doing is going to be talking face-to-face with people, face-to-face with your clients, face-to-face with the architects and engineers, face-to-face with builders and building managers and project managers and other construction workers across all of the diverse specializations. There is an expectation, a demand on the job that you are wearing your PPE and safety equipment at all times when required, and that you shouldn't actually be asked to wear it, you should know to wear it. There is a demand that you work well in a team. You cannot build a house on your own. You need to have people that you work with that support you. There is an expectation that you are going to spend a significant amount of time in your job standing on your feet. Okay? So important that they've listed at number 4 in the top 5 job demands for this career. And lastly is the job demand around decision making. You need to be able to see problems, come up with a range of solutions, and decide on the appropriate solution for that particular problem. So these are the job demands. I'm going to move forward now onto a couple of slides. I'm going to be really quick here around the personal attributes of a construction worker. A construction worker needs to have good attendance and good punctuality. You should attend your jobs on time. You should make sure that you attend your jobs. You need to have ethical behavior. Okay? Ethical behavior, making sure you're doing things within the law and within expectations of what a reasonable person would be expected to do. Not being dodgy, as an example. You're expected to be honest. Honest with your pricing when you're quoting someone. Honest with when things have gone wrong and what you're going to do to solve the problem. And honest about how long it's going to take to get your jobs done. You're expected to have a certain level of work performance. You shouldn't be sitting down on the job. Okay? You should be working and working hard quite consistently. There is an expectation that you are able to take directions that are given to you by your supervisors. And then you're able to take that feedback on board and channel it into good, productive work. There's the expectation that you will have an attention to detail, which means you're going to be producing high quality work. We have a whole lecture dedicated to quality assurance and the processes that we can undertake to help improve the quality of the products that we're producing. There is an expectation around your presentation and grooming. Now, there is a pretty bad stereotype around tradespeople and their presentation and their grooming. Now, if you work for one of those bigger companies, Lend-Lease that we spoke about, those top 5 employers, there are expectations around presentations and grooming. They would have things like uniforms they expect you to wear, and they'll expect your uniform to be clean and well looked after, and that you look fresh, okay? That you are groomed, that you don't smell, that you've done your hair, that you've brushed your teeth. Really things that we take for granted as an individual, but they are expectations of us as workers. And if as a client, and I want to do a small renovation project at home, and I have the choice between 2 builders, and they've both quoted me the exact same amount. One of them is presented well, looks neat and tidy, and the other one isn't. I'm going to pick the neat and tidy one every day, because coming with neat and tidy presentation and grooming is the expectation that your work is neat and tidy, and so I'm not going to be left with a mess at the end of the job site. Positive attitude, okay? Not an attitude that's rude or aggressive, but an attitude that is helpful, that is calm and productive. Your ability to maintain confidence, okay? Confidentiality. You will, at different points in your career, come across information that is confidential. Okay? So as a manager of a building company, for example, you might come across a client's bank statements. You might come across their loan approval equipment. You may come across their addresses, dates of birth, identity documentation. The expectation is that you're keeping that data confidential and you're respecting that client's privacy. As an employer, you may also come across this same sort of information for your employees, names, addresses, dates of birth, etc. You use that information for the purposes that are explicitly required by your job and for nothing else. We also talk about confidentiality in terms of maintaining confidentiality of business secrets, company confidential information. So if there is a secret process or a secret supplier that you use, or there is a special price that you get from a supplier for a product, that might be confidential to your company and you can't share it with other people. Okay? If we think about KFC's secret herbs and spices, they kept that secret a long time to prevent their competition from copying them. The same with Big Mac sauce. Okay? They kept the recipe for that a secret for a long time. Companies do that as well. They have secrets around how they get their job done so cheap. Okay? And you're expected to maintain confidentiality around those business corporate secrets. There is an expectation of consistency of service. So if you come in one time and do a renovation job for me and it's fantastic, the next time you come in and do a renovation job, I would expect the same level of service. And that level of service should always be top level service. Should never be sloppy, should never be messy, should never be rude, should never be dodgy. And lastly, there's an expectation that you follow safe work practices and that you genuinely believe in those safe work practices and the importance they have for you and the people around you. That safety isn't a chore, but safety is an essential thing that you want to do to keep yourself and others safe. So that's the end of today's lecture. What I want you to do is to go back through our notes, have a look at the work that I've set you on Google Classroom around the Google slide presentation that you need to create. There's a great website, a link that I'll share with you, joboutlook.com, where you can look up individual careers in the construction industry and you can get a little bit more of information around what's involved in those careers and the sorts of salaries you can be expecting to make. Hope that's been really helpful for you. Thank you.